Welcome back, everybody. This is going to be a video about what I believe to be the most underutilized, underestimated, misunderstood hero in the general pub scene of 7.31.
Banana slam jam.
So lo and behold, the hero I'm going to be talking about today is Death Prophet. And you may ask why I say all these claims of her being underutilized, misunderstood, yada yada yada. And the answer is simple. I was shocked when I looked at the Dota buff page for Death Prophet. Her pick rate, popularity-wise, is 77th out of 120-ish heroes. And then on top of that, her win rate's barely above 50%. So you may ask, BSJ, why are we even making a video on this hero? The hero's in the bottom half pick rate, very normal-looking win rate. But yet, the issue I have is I looked at 10 recent pro matches, and Death Prophet was first round picked or banned in 9 out of 10 of them, and in the other one, she was picked second round. And then I feel like she's also in all of my pubs. So if I'm thinking she's in all these pro matches, seems to be highly prioritized, and she's also in almost every pro match, yet she's picked 77th most out of every hero in Dota, she has to be top 10 in the mortal/professional level. So that tells me that this hero is misunderstood. So then we have to kind of talk about why we believe the hero to be misunderstood. Death Prophet is a tower sieging game ender, but she lacks a stun. She doesn't solo carry the game because she operates on a long cooldown, her ultimate. And at the end of the day, she doesn't have any crazy flash farming mechanics. She doesn't do a lot of things that you want out of a pub hero. But I don't think that makes her a bad pub hero, because she can absolutely end the game as long as her team has some stuns. So the reason I'm making this video is because I want you guys to understand how broken this hero is and to be able to be ahead of the curve. Because if I'm seeing the stats that I do in terms of pub win rate and pick rate on Death Prophet, then I think you guys can just easily abuse this for the time being as long as she's left as is. So the first question is, why is Death Prophet so broken? What happened this patch that made her any different than she was before? Well, if you look at the 7.31 patch notes, they did a lot of changes to damage types. And over time, especially in the B patch, they did some numbers tweaking to make sure certain heroes didn't get overtuned. But either a massive oversight or an intended insane buff, they made it so Death Prophet's ultimate effectively does double damage to towers compared to what it did in previous patches. So here's an example of me playing Death Prophet in the off lane, where I'm taking the tower at level 6, and you'll just see how quickly this tower gets decimated. It feels like Death Prophet in the core role is pretty much guaranteed to take 2 or 3 tier 1 towers in the first 12 minutes, and potentially even like an earlier tier 2 if fortification was used. The thing about Death Prophet is she can be played in literally every role but position 1. She can be a lane dominating support, or she can just be an insanely good trader in lane. So we already talked about what made Death Prophet so broken in this current patch compared to before, but now I think it's really important we talk about what makes Death Prophet conceptually as a hero just insanely strong. I think one of the simplest things about Death Prophet is that her base stats are absolutely insane. Her base damage is a respectable 52 for a ranged hero. She has 3 base armor, and most notably, she has 325 base movement speed. She has 2 different laning abilities that are quite powerful. Spirit Siphon's incredibly powerful for trading with any high HP hero, because it gives you HP and takes theirs. And then also, Crypt Swarm is a pretty good ability for securing CS. Costs 80 mana, which is pretty cheap for an intelligence hero. It's pretty low cooldown, 8 seconds. And then it's decent damage if you pair it with your right clicks. You can oftentimes use a right click simultaneous with a Crypt Swarm because your right clicks have a slower projectile to order to always secure CS. So as a core role, you're usually leveling the Crypt Swarm, and as support, you're considering leveling the Spirit Siphon to trade with the enemy support. Either way, she can be played in all these roles because of how versatile her laning phase is. A lot of people underestimate the scaling potential of Death Prophet. One of the biggest things about Death Prophet is she has a percent-based ability. The tankier the enemy heroes get, the better your third spell becomes. It does more damage and it heals you for more. So Death Prophet's win rate is highest against heroes that are generally very tanky. If you look at Dota buff, her best matchups are Necrophos, Axe, Dawnbreaker, Centaur, Huskar, Omni Knight, Tiny, Timbersaw, Pudge, Kunkka. These are all either strength heroes or incredibly stationary tanky heroes. Death Prophet's sustained damage is insane. What I mean by sustained damage is she's first off sustaining herself, but also it's just an onslaught of damage. It never stops coming. As long as her ultimate's going, her damage is continuous. So there's no amount of HP on a hero that can be bought to live through Death Prophet's kit. Her worst matchups, on the other hand, because we heavily rely on Spirit Siphon, and also her ultimate requires you to be relatively close to the opponent, are heroes with long range, kite, or burst damage. So we see her worst matchups being Drow, Arc Warden, Medusa, Slardar, Weaver, Broodmother, Lina, Undying. All these heroes either make her take a lot more damage, they either make it harder for her to enter the fight, because Death Prophet's entire idea is to push ultimate, push Spirit Siphon on 2 or 3 different heroes, and just run the fuck in. Or they amp damage on her, like Slardar and Undying ultimates. Now, I've given you the idea of what makes Death Prophet good or bad. You know, like what kind of game she flourishes in, what kind of game she struggles against. So a lot of time you'll probably want to pick her later on in your pubs when you see just some tanky hero on the enemy team that thinks they're going to live through whatever you're going to dish out. But you definitely want to avoid her, I think, especially against Drow. That's by far her worst matchup, and it's also got a large sample size across all pubs. So we'll talk about item considerations. When it comes to support, you just want to stay alive. We're talking like Ghost Scepters, Force Staves, Glimmer Capes, consider Yule Scepters, Eon Discs, literally anything to keep you alive. Because as a support, you're just your abilities. As long as you're alive, Spirit Siphon and Exorcism will do a bajillion damage and end up wiping the team fight over the course of 30 seconds. So keep in mind that whatever you think kills you on the enemy team, just itemize against it as a support. As a core, the one problem this hero has is she doesn't jungle very well, and if she's not tanky enough to run in, it's very hard to play this hero. So generally speaking, her first item will be an acceleration item of sorts. It's either Boots of Travel, which will allow her to farm on the opposite side of the map and then join team fights, or something like Assange and Kaya, which just gives her a little bit more mana to work with and allows her to spam Crypt Swarm on creep waves in order to farm. But past that, you're purely buying items that allow you to run the hell in. We're talking about BKB, we're talking about Shiva's Guard, even something like a Heart of Tarask, we're talking about Blink Daggers, we're talking about Refresh Orbs for another BKB. Your entire idea is to be in the middle of the fight and get yourself in there however you need to. The biggest issue for Death Prophet, the games where she struggles the most, I've already talked about long-range damage, is when you push R, or whatever your hotkey is for your ultimate, and the enemy just runs away. So the biggest thing about Death Prophet is she doesn't want to be taking fights defensively on her own side of the map. She wants to be playing around her own team's objectives, and she wants to walk into Roach Pit, she wants to walk up to a tower and push her ultimate and make the opponent fight into her. She's very similar to Huskar. If the opponent ever runs into you and you've got your ultimate available or ultimate's already going, that's like a key ticket to say, what are these guys doing? Let's murder them all. I think what makes Death Prophet so strong as a hero conceptually, above everything else that I've already said, is it feels virtually impossible to itemize against her. Other than actually trying to kill her, which unless you're a specific hero, it doesn't feel like there's items you can buy. There are things like Spirit Vessel, Shivas, and Scotty. Generally, hero reduction items are very hard for her to deal with if she doesn't have the proper counters to remove them or avoid getting hit by you. But the issue is that she has single target magic damage that scales against your HP. So most heroes that you itemize against magic damage, you say, I just want to live through their magic damage, so I'm going to give myself some more health. For Death Prophet, that doesn't work, because the more health you have, the more damage she does to you. But then on top of that, you're dealing with a magic damage hero. She has a silence, so you often have to build like Manta or BKB on cores, you have to build like Yules on supports to be able to even cast your spells. And then also, her ultimate is physical damage. So you have to consider building armor or picking heroes in the carry role that have a lot of armor. But then these heroes might even die to the magic damage of Spirit Siphon. So there really is no way to live through this hero if she's up in your face. The only way to beat her is to kill her instantly. And the thing about pubs is people lack focus fire. People lack the coordination to say, let's 3 or 4 man kill and focus this Death Prophet. The biggest thing you want to be careful of when playing Death Prophet is forcing it. If you don't have your ultimate, you're a much weaker hero than you are otherwise. So let's just ensure you guys understand that if you're trying to play Death Prophet, the way your teammates will grief you is by trying to force fights when your ultimate is on cooldown. But I think, generally speaking, that will be alleviated at least a significant amount by simply communicating your cooldowns and telling your team once you have your cooldown what you want to do with it. Like, say, hey guys, Exorcism on cooldown for 60 seconds, we can look to go Roche after. Obviously, people are going to be unpredictable, but I think this is a large reason why the hero has a lower win rate in pubs, about 50%. Because in the higher matches where people understand the hero, or in professional matches where you play around the hero's timings, she's considered absolutely broken, yet her win rate's barely above 50%. The last thing I want to add is that the way to beat her, I already mentioned, is to focus her down. The shard that they gave her makes that even more difficult. You pretty much never buy her axe. It feels like it's just a win more kind of item, and it doesn't really keep you alive. It does more damage, which she has plenty of, trust me. But her axe shard makes it so that if you spirit siphon somebody for 3 seconds, that they will be feared. So unless they BKB to hit you, then they can't even focus fire you. And the biggest part about this is your ultimate is physical damage that goes through BKB. So you have to buy a BKB to kill her, but then while you're BKB'd, you might die to her anyways. And the biggest part about the buff that they gave the ability, which changed it from 4 seconds of siphoning somebody to 3, is in the past, if Death Prophet's running at you and she spirit siphoned you, you could potentially TP away from her ultimate. But now, since it's 3 seconds, which is the same duration as a TP, unless you started the TP before she started the spirit siphon, she will have a TP cancel. So one of the biggest issues that Death Prophet always had was people just TP'd away from her. And they also just ignored her because she didn't have a disable. Like, they would kill her teammates first. But now that they have a sense of crowd control on her as well, the hero just offers too much. So the whole point of this video was to let you guys know how insanely broken this hero is. And until they patch the ultimate to be half damage of what it already, or back to where it was before, which is half damage of what it is now, I believe it should be free MMR for you if you understand what you're going for. The hero is about constant pressure, shoving in lanes, winning trades in the lane with Spirit Siphon, and then every ultimate you take an objective. After about 6 or 7 ultimates, you've taken a Rax. And right now, I really think people in pubs are missing out on it. So I hope you guys learned something from this video. I hope you can take it into your pubs and spam the hero for some free MMR. I highly recommend practicing it in the core roles first. But for your support players out there, it might be a bit more frustrating because she doesn't have playmaking potential. But if you guys are doing duo queue or party queue, I think support Death Prophet's insanely strong as well. Thanks for watching, guys. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace.